Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started if people want to grab a seat. I know there's amazing energy in the room. The first time that we're all really back together, eating and drinking and celebrating. And so we'll take care of our awards and we can go celebrate some more. So it's wonderful to be here. So I'm Tiffany Wilson, the President and CEO of the University Science Center, and we're delighted to welcome you to the Nucleus Awards presented by CSL Behring. Today we have guests joining us in person here in Quorum and others tuning in virtually. But no matter how you're participating, we're thrilled to convene all of you and unite around the impact of these four individuals we're honoring with the 2021 Nucleus Awards. Next week marks my 1-year anniversary at the Science Center. And what a year it's been. Transformational advancements have taken place in healthcare innovation, and the science has never been more critical to the wellness of our economy, our health, and our livelihoods. Philadelphia sits at the intersection of medical innovation and world-class patient care that puts not-for-profit organizations like the Science Center in a unique position to serve as a catalyst for our growing startup ecosystem. Last year, Startup Genome ranked Philadelphia 43rd in its Global Startup Ecosystem Report, thanks to our region's unique combination of diverse talent, investor activity, innovation, and support resources. With the 2021 report being released in just a few days, we're confident that we've collectively built on that momentum and are poised to continue Philadelphia's evolution as a world-class startup hub. Simultaneously, our eyes have been opened to the systemic inequalities prevalent in many of our communities, spanning from access to education, meaningful employment opportunities, and quality health care. We cannot ignore our role in addressing these issues head on. We recognize that these micro and macro trends cannot be uncoupled, and we've taken this moment to seriously reflect on the needs of the ecosystem and how the Science Center can and should address these challenges. We have a mechanism for launching and accelerating the growth of digital health technologies. We have space for them to launch and scale. And if we know at an early stage how fast they will grow, we can train a local workforce and help facilitate those connections. And if we do that right, we can make healthcare more accessible and economically empower Philadelphians. This mindset is what has kept the Science Center relevant for nearly 60 years, continuing to evolve to address the unmet needs in our community. Today, the Science Center advances healthcare innovation from idea to the marketplace through startup support services, allocating capital, gathering the innovation community, and building inclusive STEM pathways for Philadelphia youth and adults. Our mission is to power progress that advances healthcare innovation, uplifts communities, and improves lives. But we recognize that progress does not happen in isolation. It takes many people, organizations, and initiatives to affect change, and we're ultimately greater than the sum of our parts. The exemplary work of Max Perelman, Della Clark, Tracy Wilson-Rossman, and Michelle Freeman are shining examples of this ethos, and we're thrilled to honor you today with our Nucleus Awards. Whether it was inefficiencies in medical care, systemic inequities in minority-led businesses, a lack of gender diversity in the workforce, or desire to bring different people and new ideas together, Max, Della, Tracy, and Michelle put themselves in motion to act as catalysts for a better future. So I'd like to congratulate each of you and thank you for your critical work that you do across commercialization, capital, cultivation, and convening in Philadelphia and beyond. The 2021 Nucleus Awards would, of course, not be possible without our incredible, amazing sponsors. In particular, we'd like to acknowledge CSL Behring as our presenting sponsor, and our award sponsors, CBRE, New Spring Capital, Wexford Science and Technology, Ventas, PFM, and Tri-State. And WHYY as this year's media sponsor, Cozen O'Connor and Spark Therapeutics as our platinum sponsors. We'd also like to acknowledge the wonderful support from many of the gold sponsors, silver sponsors, and contributors. On behalf of all of us at the Science Center, many, many thanks to all of you who have supported this event and who have supported us throughout the year. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Bill Mezzanotte, Executive Vice President, Head of R&D, and Chief Medical Officer at CSL Behring. As presenting sponsor of the Nucleus Awards and a valued corporate partner of the Science Center, CSL Behring has been an essential supporter, helping to underwrite and build our region's innovation ecosystem. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Bill.
Thanks, Tiffany, and so nice to be able to join your one-year party. And welcome and thank you to everyone for attending tonight's event, whether you're here in person, which is kind of cool, right? Or virtually. So CSL Behring is really proud to return as the presenting sponsor for the Nucleus Awards. This is a great event celebrating individual entrepreneurship that is really emblematic of the Science Center community as a whole. You may not know this, but CSL is one of the world's largest biotechnology companies. We're almost as good of a secret as Philadelphia is in itself. And one of our core strategies is to partner with institutions around the world that reside near our R&D centers so that we can jointly advance our mission of improving the lives of patients with rare and serious diseases. As CSL's Behring US headquarters are in King of Prussia, and have you ever visited King of Prussia? A good girl. Our partnership with the Science Center is crucial to catalyzing local partnerships that can enhance our work as a trusted and reliable global biotechnology leader. Our relationship with the Science Center really started about 5 years ago and has continued to grow and transform. Together, we have partnered to fund promising research and provide innovators in our scientific areas of interest. Recently, CSL Behring opened our own R&D laboratory here in the Science Center campus, dedicated to finding breakthrough technologies in our core plasma business. We opened here purposefully and to fully integrate into U City Square's rich life science ecosystem and allow our young scientists like Dave Barima, who I saw earlier tonight, benefit from all that the community here has to offer. Philadelphia's world-class research institutions and universities, combined with the Science Center's local and regional initiatives, create a rich milieu of best-in-class networks, resources, and talent to help CSL turn creativity into life-saving medicines for patients. During the pandemic, I had a chance to revive an old hobby of mine. Anybody else take up an old hobby? Yeah, there you go. Mine was beekeeping, of all things. And you learn a lot of lessons beekeeping, one of which is if you're in a rush, you'll get stung. But another lesson is that you can have the best hive you want and it looks great and everything. But if the queen bee isn't doing well, the hive will not do well. And as a Science Center board member since June of last year, I've had the privilege of working alongside Tiffany throughout her first year here. And I can confidently say that the U City Hive is thriving with their new queen bee. And I'm confident that under her strong and clear leadership, we can expect big things happening in the University City and beyond. The Science Center's refreshed mission and vision is bold and ambitious, yet also grounded in the strengths of this nearly 60-year-old institution and also our regional assets and the dynamic conditions of our ecosystem. So on behalf of CSL and the other board members, I want to say how excited I am to see the Science Center execute on their strategies to really address society's biggest healthcare challenges. It's for the same ambition that the Science Center has that we celebrate tonight's four honorees, Max, Della, Tracy, and Michelle. These individuals really are served as models for change, adjusting to shifts in our landscape, and stepping in to lead our region towards a more collaborative, innovative, and equitable future. So on behalf of CSL Behring and the Science Center Board of Directors, thank you for joining us today as we celebrate progress, determination, and discovery. And I look forward to more opportunities like this to unite as a community again, fortunately in person, to transform the healthcare and STEM ecosystem. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our host for the evening, an award-winning journalist and the host and executive producer of WHYY's The Pulse, Mike and Scott. As a national health and science radio show and podcast, The Pulse explores the people and places at the heart of health and science. Since its launch in 2013, The Pulse has crafted a unique ground-level approach to telling compelling stories and breaking down complicated issues. The shows air on more than 75 public radio stations across the country and has a strong podcast following, including myself. We are thrilled to have Mike in here to lend her expertise and explore the unique stories of each of tonight's honorees. So thank you, Mike, for joining us tonight, and welcome to the 2021 Nucleus Awards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Tiffany. Let me unmask. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for including me in this wonderful event. I often say that I'm a Philadelphian by choice and by coincidence, and there's a lot to be proud of when you live in this region, but especially during this pandemic, I could not have been prouder to be part of this region, to live in this region, to be able to witness and report on the work that was coming out of this region, that was helping all of us and people around the world to get through this pandemic, to find ways forward, and to hopefully continue to find ways forward and to continue to do better. So this is why I'm so happy to be here tonight to celebrate the work of the Science Center and to celebrate the work of all of you and the wonderful honorees that we're about to celebrate. So thank you for joining us here in the room. It's so exciting to be in a place in person. Thanks to everybody who is joining us from home. I recently interviewed some teenagers about their experiences in the pandemic, and one of them said to me, "You know, I learned that I liked people a lot more than I thought I did." And I thought, same, yes, it's wonderful to be around other humans, isn't it? So with that, I'm excited to start celebrating our honorees. And the first award this evening is the 2021 Commercialization Award, sponsored by CBRE. So please welcome Bror Kirshner. He is Executive Vice President of CBRE, and he's going to introduce our first honoree. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm actually a Senior Vice President, but I'll take executive. I'm happy to be here tonight and introduce the first award of the evening, the 2021 Commercialization Award. At CBRE, our mission is to help our clients and partners by building real estate solutions of the future. Through market knowledge, data, and technology, our goal is to help clients use real estate to transform their businesses and grow their businesses. CBRE has presence in over 100 countries and has a deep focus on clients in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical industries. In a nutshell, we're working to ensure the region's promising health and science companies have the space and resources they need to scale their business and realize their full potential. But scaling a great idea to a corporate enterprise is both an art and a science. Promising technology doesn't always find its way to the marketplace, and rising startups with the potential to change the world won't always find success. It takes more than a bright idea to succeed in the competitive healthcare and life sciences landscape. And yet, under Max Perelman's leadership as co-founder, Biomeme has consistently beaten the odds since it launched 9 years ago. Max co-founded Biomeme alongside biology lead Jesse and engineering lead Mark DeJohn, each stemming from different yet personal experiences. For Max, a rising concern for his two young daughters married with frustration for accurate, real-time results for their health, spawned an idea. Today, BioMeme is a venture-backed startup developing hardware and software products that turn smartphones into disease-detecting labs. BioMeme's platform transforms your smartphone into a mobile lab for advanced DNA diagnostics and real-time disease surveillance. The cutting-edge platform performs to the gold standard used by the world's most advanced central labs, but requires no lab equipment or special experience to use. Most importantly, their technology was issued an emergency use authorization by the FDA for the rapid COVID-19 testing, which spurred rapid growth for the company. In less than a year, the company has gone from 35 employees to over 300 team members in 8 cities, including 120 here in the Philadelphia region. Please join me in congratulating Max Perelman and BioMeme with the 2021 Commercialization Award.
All right, here's your microphone. Too many things in your hand.
Hi.
Hello, Max.
Hi.
Hello. So I think the word of 2020 was pivot. And as we just heard, you pivoted.
Very much so.
How? Tell us how you did it, what you learned along the way.
So I remember pretty distinctly early on it was, gosh, around January or so. And the news was starting to come out from Wuhan, China. And I looked at one of my co-founders, Jesse, who is our biology lead. And we kind of just saw it in each other's eyes, like, this is it. And he spent the next 4 or 5 days designing a test for SARS-CoV-2 specifically. And we knew that our products were just so uniquely designed to be able to help in the fight in a pandemic. I mean, really, so we started the company 9 years ago. Our largest funder and backer and customer until the beginning of the pandemic was actually the US Department of Defense. And we were developing small handheld molecular detection technology for special operations forces. So you can think of scary white powders and things like that folks might want to detect and get an accurate detection. And we would always joke, like, anthrax, ricin. What people should really be afraid of is the next flu, right? The next pandemic flu, and then it happened. And the only thing we got wrong was it was coronavirus instead of influenza. But we knew that we could very quickly repurpose our at the time research use only technology for biosurveillance, biowarfare agent detection to SARS-CoV-2 detection. And that was the big pivot for us. And it's one of the things that enabled us to achieve a lot of our goals was we're vertically integrated, and meaning we were doing all of the research and development in-house. We were doing all of the manufacturing in-house, literally hand assembling all of our products, the hardware, writing the software, hand assembling all of the consumables. And then when the pandemic really took off, the whole global supply chain collapsed. It was incredibly difficult to be able to maintain the business and keep going. But because we had that vertical integration, we were able to kind of maintain things. And at the time, we had 2 people in our manufacturing, 2 people in a room, 2 people in a room. And we also have a lab testing business. We had 1 full-time person. And now we've got 100 or more people in manufacturing. We've got 200 employees, maybe another 100, 150 contractors around the United States doing SARS-CoV-2 testing daily, putting their own lives at risk, working very long hours. But because we had that small amount of infrastructure at the beginning, we were able to scale it and really take off.
But growing that quickly has so many challenges during a pandemic. What were some of the biggest that you felt like, wow, I don't know if we can get past this? Just name 2 or 3.
Guanidinium thiocyanate, ethanol, carrier RNA, silica, 1 mil syringes, NP swabs. I mean, you name it. You're trying to scale your manufacturing. You've got nursing homes freaking out saying, we've got an outbreak. We desperately need your test now. And I'm getting daily calls from the manufacturing team saying that we have another person down with COVID. It's likely spread. We've got multiple people now. Trying to get we got it. We got our raw materials in. Oh, but there's a riot outside and UPS has decided not to deliver this week. You name it. It's been so incredibly difficult the last 12 to 18 months just to be able to scale. I think some of it, for me, it's just, you got to just not take things personally. Everybody's doing the best they can. And you need to just assume that and act as if nothing we can do is right or ideal. So let's just put out the current fire today and move on. And as we go, try to put in place some of that infrastructure that'll enable us to further scale beyond that next piece or that next milestone.
Now, the pandemic brought to light many things, supply chain issues being one of them, but also during this time, so many inequities in this country, around the world, came to light. Does your company have a role in addressing those as well?
I think for myself and my co-founders, it was very important to us to be able to price our products appropriately. A lot of people have honestly profited in what I would say is in an immoral way in the pandemic. And it was very important for me that we would be profitable, and we have been, but not to the extent that it's gross.
Yeah.
So that's been very important, and also enable us to because of the nature of what we do, it's mobile, it's handheld. It's enabled us to get beyond the cities and get into the rural areas and into low and middle income countries, et cetera, which is really, I think, at the heart is, can we use this as an opportunity to expand capacity within these other regions?
And Max, before we go, and this is the question I'm going to ask everybody, what is your call to action for the audience?
Well, I think all of us here, I mean, you needed to be vaccinated to get in. So we're all vaccinated, but we all have a sphere of influence. And I would hope that all of you could take some time to convince just one person that's on the sidelines to get vaccinated. We're on the testing side. Detection, real-time disease detection and surveillance is incredibly important, but we can't end this without vaccination. So I would put that on you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much,
you.
Max, and congratulations on the award. You can leave the microphone over. Thank you. All right. Our next honoree is accepting the first award of its kind at Nucleus. So this is extra exciting, the inaugural Capital Award, which recognizes an individual or organization that has intentionally sourced and invested in minority-owned startups or founders with the purpose of mobilizing capital to unlock innovation. The Capital Award is sponsored by NewSpring. So now I'm going to welcome Mike DiPiano. He is Managing General Partner of NewSpring Capital. He's going to introduce our honoree. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike DiPiano. I'm the managing partner of NewSpring Capital. I also happen to be the chair of the board. And I just want to say I'm really thrilled to have everybody here together. I know there's some people virtually as well, but it's just nice to get together with everybody at this little gem that we call the Science Center. So thank you for coming. I will also say that I was a little surprised to hear it was going to be formal dress, and I thought, geez, do my suits fit, right? How many of you have worn a suit in like a year, you know? So fortunately, it did fit. I had to go through 3 renditions to try to find one. So listen, at NewSpring Capital, we do a very simple thing. We deploy capital, right? We invest in an entrepreneur's dreams, a business that is so difficult. We just heard from, Max about how difficult it was to go through what he's going through, and our companies all face that. So we do something really, really simple, and that is we try to find great people with great ideas and support them with capital. So it's really cool to have this award, this new pillar that Tiffany and team have created in this Capital Award. And I'm really thrilled to be the one presenting. It's also with a great deal of excitement and a heartfelt situation that we get to present it to Della. Because NewSpring's been somewhat involved with Della and her journey over the last few years. One of my partners, Steve Hobman's in the audience today. And Della has spent 32 years being an overnight success. 32 years of tremendous grit, tenacity. I'll just give you one quick story. Steve Hobman says to me, hey, we got to go down and meet Della. It's a quick lunch. We're going to go down. We're going to spend some time with her. She's going to talk to us about what she has planned. And we have, all of us are busy. We have an afternoon full of meetings. So we get there, and it is not just a little lunch. It's a whole, 4-course meal. There are other people in the group. There's like 7 to 8, 10 of us there. They're bringing the food out with white gloves. And I look at Steve and say, we're not getting back to that office. So he's busy texting, okay, we're going to get, but it just showed that Della has the grit, the tenacity to be that 32-year overnight success. Della's vision for minority entrepreneurship is not just counting businesses and how many get invested, but more importantly, counting those that were successful, those that made it, those that made an impact. Since 1992, Della has brought this vision to fruition and has remained at the forefront of this region's entrepreneurial ecosystem, guided by the mission to cultivate and invest in minority entrepreneurs, to inspire them to work together for the economic growth in their communities. The Enterprise Center accomplishes this by accelerating the capacity of minority business enterprises to compete in any marketplace through business education, access to capital, management support, and all the connections that Della has made and brings to them. Della, you continue to transform the Enterprise Center to meet the changing needs of local businesses. You're absolutely somebody that we should all emulate. Congratulations. We're thrilled to have you get this award tonight.
Congratulations.
Before I get started, Max owed me $3 million. Steve, I told him if he go over 3 minutes, he gonna have to pay.
It's a pretty award. I like this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, I'm sure your work always feels urgent, but it must have felt especially important and urgent during this last year and a half. So tell me a little bit about what your vision is and how your vision grew or shifted during this time.
My vision really didn't change until the night or the day of George Floyd's death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that 9 minutes and 26 seconds changed me forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that night that my voice had to be louder. And it has gotten louder and louder and louder because, when Emmett Till was killed, there was no camera. And we didn't witness that 9 minutes and 26 seconds. But when George Floyd was killed, we witnessed that. And for me, that was a wake-up call, even as an African-American, that I had to do more than I've ever done before. And I would say that Mike, I've only been there almost 30 years, not 32. And I started when I was 6 years old. You know? But I'm just so much more motivated as if the first day I walked into the Enterprise Center, because I recognize that, you know, all of us in this room have to bring about the change we want to see. And Philadelphia will never be a great city unless we break down the walls of the structural inequities that exist in this city. And I'm prepared to lead the way for that. And I'm not trying to run for office either.
Talk a bit about, there we go. Maybe you should though. Talk a bit about channeling your energy. Sometimes we see things and they can lead us to feel exhausted. They can lead us to feel defeated. And I think what we saw with George Floyd was one of those moments where it was a moment where one could feel very much defeated. So how did you channel your energy to just move straight ahead?
Well, I always knew that when I walked into the Enterprise Center 30 years ago, that it was God's assignment in my life. And I just knew that after George Floyd's death, that was another signal that I just needed to do more. And so I wasn't deterred by it. I've been motivated by it.
Talk a bit about how the organization has changed over those 30 years. What did you see as its role maybe back then? How has that shifted?
Well, first of all, when I arrived there 30 years ago, we had $31,000 in the bank. So that has changed. Also started out with just myself, and now we are, how many people? 46? Have about 46 staff people, and we also are in New Jersey as well, and working our way across the United States, right? And I'm proud because 4 of my leaders are here. Will you stand? Because I'm accepting this award, but I can't take the recognition without them. They all have the brains and I got the mouth.
And during those same 30 years, how would you say has entrepreneurship shifted in minority groups, and what is changing? What are some exciting trends that you see? What do you think has to change more quickly, or you would love to see more change?
Well, it's sad to say that, and we learned this through processing PPPs on behalf of our SBA, and our CDFI played a major role. There's about 30,000 minority businesses in this region, in this area. Only 1,200 of them have employees. And so when you look at the city of Philadelphia and you say, well, why do we have such poverty? Why do we have such issues? That's because we haven't done a good enough job to combine our spend, combine our capital, and combine the expertise and capacity that we have in this city to bring about that change. And so until we do that, we're not going to have CEOs that are minorities and creating the kind of jobs and creating the wealth that we need to see in this city. So that's what we need to do. And that's why I am so pleased to be working with New Springs, because they are helping me understand and gain the experience that I need as a first-time fund manager to be able to manage a $50 million fund. And I'm very, very excited about it. And, you know, little friends need big friends, and I'm happy to have New Spring Capital.
I'm wondering if you could tell us about one business, one entrepreneur that you've worked with in recent years who has inspired you, or where you feel like this is the kind of success story I want to see more of.
Well, I hate when I'm asked that, because that's asking me to single out someone, and I do not like to do that. But there is one story that resonates. And she came to us, she was on public assistance, and she used to be a consultant here, or got a lot of work at the Science Center and at the universities, because this was back in the day when you had to type your thesis. And she used to type thesis for PhD candidates at the universities. And when she came, that business started to change when technology came and everybody started to get computers. So then they didn't hire someone to type their thesis. And so we had to help her pivot and decide on another market. And so if you know anything about the African-American community, we spent a lot of money on obituaries and funerals. And so we did research, and at that time, there were about 128 mortuaries in this region. And what we found out is that the mortuaries outsource the hearse, they outsource in many cases the obituaries. And so we coined this joke that people were just dying to give her business. And so we helped her get into the obituary business, and she's still in business today.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And finally,
I can't give the name.
Nope, that's okay.
Because I'll be showing favoritism.
We won't tell. Now your question, just like everybody else, what is your call to action for our audience?
Well, I think I've already said it. It's to help the Enterprise Center break down the structural inequities that exist in this city, right? If we work collectively together, we can do that. But we got to bring three things: your spend dollars, capital, and we got to bring capacity. Because the one great thing I like is that a lot of expertise is sitting at home still working virtual. And you can take a half an hour, hour a day and do a virtual meeting with an entrepreneur and help them bring about the expertise that they can't afford to pay for. And so, the Enterprise Center is open for those three things to help us succeed. And if we do that and we work together, this is not just about the Enterprise Center. This is about what we can do collectively for the city. And if I don't be quiet, I think I'm about to give that $3 million back to Mike. So, Max, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Della, and congratulations. Thank you. All right. Our next honoree is being recognized for her demonstrated leadership and commitment in building a diverse and equitable workforce that represents our community at large. The 2021 Cultivator Award is co-sponsored by Wexford Science and Technology and Ventas. Here to present tonight's honoree is John Grady. He is Senior Vice President, Northeast Region Executive at Wexford Science and Technology. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mika. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, I guess now. It really is great to be in a room full of people that are happy to be with each other. And really want to thank the Science Center, Tiff and Tracy and the whole Quorum team for putting on this event and doing it in a way that's safe and comfortable and makes everybody want to come out and enjoy the company of their colleagues and their peers and their friends. And to recognize a really terrific group of people. I would go home guilty if I didn't say a particular acknowledgement to Della. I happen to have worked with Della for decades. If it's possible, I think Mike might have understated her tenacity and her grit because she's really been saying for a long time, before those 9 minutes, that we need to do more. And so it's great to hear that clarity in your voice and the response from the rest of the people listening. So congratulations in particular. I'm here to represent a partnership and our investment partners from Ventas Inc. and Tim Sanders and Will Germain, who came in from out of town to join us today. Wexford and Ventas are partners in the investment and development of knowledge communities around the country. We're in about 15 communities like Philadelphia, where we have strong research institutions that anchor our innovation communities. We have incredible entrepreneurship communities, and we have opportunities to bring all of those communities together to create innovation that is not only dynamic and growing, but inclusive and diverse as well. I'm particularly excited and proud because Philadelphia is really the flagship community for Wexford and for Ventas. We are long-term partners here with the Science Center, not only in developing the places and the buildings that support innovation here in U City Square, but also investing in and building the multifaceted community that's necessary to leverage that physical environment to produce the inclusive and transformative growth that we all seek. As partners, Wexford and Ventas and the Science Center are jointly committed to creating a knowledge community here that's built on a foundation of discovery, innovation, entrepreneurial activity, and inclusion. And together, these really are the lifeblood for breakthroughs in science and technology that not only benefit society, but they also generate economic growth, new jobs, and community transformation. Building these communities requires far more than real estate. It demands people and resources, support, and opportunities that can cultivate a diverse workforce that builds community capacity, builds social and economic inclusion. And that's why we as partners are particularly proud to sponsor the 2021 Cultivator Award. Tracy Wilson-Rossman is a sought-after expert, advisor, and advocate for women in technology. She's a co-founder and CMO of Philadelphia-based software consulting firm Chariot Solutions, and the founder and CEO of a new startup, Journal My Health, a digital platform for patients with chronic conditions. When Tracy started her career at what would become Chariot Solutions in 2002, she looked around and noticed the lack of women in the industry, and in turn, the lack of women in her own company's recruiting and employment pipelines. In response, she started Tech Girls, a nonprofit dedicated to inspiring middle school girls to explore the possibilities of technology to empower their daily lives and to build their future careers. When the organization started in 2010, there were 26 participants in the program. Today, Tech Girls boasts more than 25,000 girls around 20 countries that have benefited from their free, hands-on curriculum and mentorship. Since its launch, Tracy treated Tech Girls like any other startup, creating a product that addressed an unmet need, scaling that solution through partnership and acquisition, and accelerating growth and impact. In 2019, the organization was acquired by Creating IT Futures, paving the way for long-term sustainable growth for the company and the mission, providing girls everywhere an open door to start the entrepreneurial journey. Please join me in congratulating Tracy Wilson-Rossman with the 2021 Nucleus Cultivator Award.
Congratulations. Got your microphone? Yes. Now, Tracy, I think John just described what motivated you to start Tech Girls. You saw something and you wanted to do something about it, right? But what was the future you wanted to see? How did you want women to enter this space? And what were the kind of products maybe you envisioned would happen as a result?
It was more about the future that I saw was creating a space where women, girls and women, felt that they belonged in the tech community, but the idea that they could also be innovators. So many people, when I started Tech Girls, they kept saying to me, oh, you want to get them into comp sci? And I said, no, I want them to use technology to create a great product and to open up new doors for them.
Mm-hmm. And was that in part based on your own experience coming into this industry?
Well, I mean, if you look at my bio, it's pretty curvy, and it was not a straight path into how I got into this. It's interesting that now I'm starting a company when I've never really done that before from a tech standpoint, even though I'm one of the early founders of Chariot Solutions. It's just our ability to think a little bit broader about what a technologist looks like. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I also, as we went along and started putting Tech Girls together, technology is just more than software development, even though that's how, I make my bread and butter. But what we were finding was that girls were turned off because they thought that the only opportunity for them to get into tech was through software development. I like to use a lot of food analogies when I speak. So we wanted to show them sort of the buffet and let them sample a little bit. And if they didn't like the broccoli, well, then there was pizza on the buffet, which I don't think we're allowed to do anymore. So
no more buffets. Now, we just heard about all the other things you've done in your career. You have a lot of connections in this region. How were you able to utilize those connections in growing tech girls?
How was I not able to utilize them? I mean, the network here, the one thing that I don't think that people really understand is how welcoming the Philadelphia community is. When you go outside of the community, I hear that other areas just aren't as nice as we are, even though a lot of people don't think that we are. People who come from outside, they're networked around. So it's pretty easy to go out and ask people for help. One of the things that I found was that no one said no to me. Everyone really believed in the idea of what we were doing. And I really feel very strongly that Tech Girls would not have grown and thrived in any other region besides Philadelphia. And just a little point here, the first event was here at the old Quorum. So Steve Tang and Jean Mel were probably the first people that I met. And they said, what do you need? How can we help you? And I just actually wrote a little blog post today because we'd be here for probably about 5 hours with all the people that I needed to thank. So it's just everybody's been open, from anyone who was in marketing, in sales, but also the developer community, people who really didn't have to come in and help. They were the first ones also to raise their hands.
And I guess people know a good idea when they see one, right? So I'm sure when you said, this is what I want to do and this is the need, people were like, yes, that is.
What you do have to realize is that this was, when I first started talking about this, it was 12 years ago. At that point, the Me Too movement hadn't even started. The tech community was really out there first saying, things are not right here. And what impressed me the most was the men who really came out and showed up for us early on, before it was something that was, seen as something that they should do.
Mm-hmm. So it was like doing the right thing because it was the right thing.
And they, one of the things that I like to also talk about, that getting more gender diversity, having more people who are not represented in tech, it's not just a social justice issue. I like to talk about the economics. This is a business issue. We need more talent in the tech pipeline, in the life sciences pipeline, but these are good paying jobs. So we're also raising up people economically.
And you're creating products for women, and that's a huge market.
Correct. And sometimes it's not even just about, being an innovator. One of the things that we talk to our girls about all the time was, you don't have to be the founder. The founder needs a team. Mm-hmm. Team, as Della said, she's got 4 people. You need other people for your dreams to come true.
Yeah. What is your call to action for the audience?
I wrote it down.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and so I don't like to make it easy on people. So this it's a goal with multiple calls to action. So the goal is, we need to make Philadelphia the best region and the best place to work for women in tech and life sciences. And I know that we can do this. So what's the call to action that we can do? How do we help? Well, this is a generational change. It is a marathon and not a sprint. So we're doing some really great things. We're supporting Tech Girls, we're supporting HopeWorks, and there's lots of different organizations that are here. We need to continue to mentor. We need to continue to create apprenticeship programs. I want to make sure that the women in your organizations are taking advantage of professional development. But there are some short-term goals that I think that we can do that can make some great change. One of them, fund female-founded companies. We need to have more women at the forefront. Number two, support parental leave at your companies and speak up for it. That's not just helping women, that's men being part of this. And the last thing I think is really, really important, the pandemic has really showed this up. We must support childcare. Women in the workforce are leaving. That's knowledge that's being left out of your house. Please support childcare policies through the state, through the government, through your own companies. And we're going to keep that knowledge and keep these women in the workforce.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations. Thank you. All right, we're really getting some good calls to action, aren't we? Somebody needs to write all of these down. All right, our next honoree is being honored for her work in removing barriers to connect diverse people and ideas, to advance civic interest, and to improve lives. Here to introduce our next honoree are the Convener Award co-sponsors, Carrie Benson, Managing Director and Chief Information Officer as PFM, and Darren Guertin, he is Commercial Real Estate Finance of Tri-State Capital. Will you join us on stage and introduce our next honoree? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Really happy to be here. Happy to just get out and enjoy fellowshipping with friends and colleagues. So it's really exciting. This particular award I'm pretty excited about because I think convening people, especially in a city like Philadelphia, is so vital. We talk about convening people of different backgrounds and cultures. It's really, now is the time, and it's a great opportunity for that. As been stated, I'm Carrie Benson, Managing Director and Chief Information Officer for PFM, locally based here in Philadelphia. And also a proud board member of the Science Center, and been in that capacity for a number of years. So it's like being here with my family, which is really nice. I'm joined tonight by Darren Guertin, Senior Vice President, Commercial Real Estate and Finance for Tri-State Capital. And we're really excited tonight to co-sponsor the Convener Award. At PFM and Tri-State, we believe that the best ideas don't happen in a vacuum, but through the intersection of diverse people, perspectives, and accessible resources. Through introductions, meetings, and interactions in common spaces like the one we have here, all of us exchange ideas. We solve problems and align our needs and interests in ways that spark the ideas that in turn lead to businesses and products that improve our collective quality of life. And conveners are the people who work tirelessly to bring us together in that spirit of partnership and collaboration. Michelle Freeman is the perfect example of what is possible when you create the opportunity, the space, and empathy for conversations that advance civic interest and improve lives. And that is why we are proud to sponsor the 2021 Convener Award.
So I would just echo the same sentiments as the other presenters. I think it's great to be out here tonight and see people in person. This may be my first event since probably February of 2020. So great to see everybody here in such a neat venue. Darren Guertin from Tri-State Capital Bank. Most of you have probably not heard of us, which is okay. We don't do a lot of advertising, but with an entrepreneurial spirit, we were started in 2007 by three people, raised $100 million of equity, and today we are over $10 billion in assets. So continuing to grow nicely and supporting middle market, family-owned businesses and entrepreneurs in the markets we serve, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and the surrounding states. So back to Michelle, though. So as a lifelong resident, Michelle is strongly committed to Philadelphia, She dedicates much of her work on creating convening opportunities that highlight civic-minded people and projects through her company, Witty Gritty. Nice name. Witty Gritty brings communities together and strives to connect people with resources and each other through experiences and engagement. Beyond her day job, Michelle has also developed and grown initiatives like Amplify Philly, Urban Consulate, TEDx Philadelphia, and Flying Kite Media. She also sits on the advisory board of Better Civics, Skate Philly, Citizens Planning Institute, and Small But Mighty Arts. I'm not sure what Michelle does with her spare time. Michelle's work has been widely recognized and received many prominent credits, including Drexel University's 40 Under 40 in 2015, and a top keeper and connector by Leadership Philadelphia in 2014. Please join me in congratulating Michelle Freeman with the 2021 Nucleus Convener Award.
All right, Michelle, congratulations.
Thanks.
So we heard the word convene a few times in this speech, and you are a convener. But what does that mean to you? Bringing people together, but to do what?
I think when I think about that, I think mostly about how do I help connect people who wouldn't otherwise meet each other, and also to try to bring people into spaces in a thoughtful, intentional way, to spaces that they wouldn't normally be in. So I think that's at the core of what I think about. And I think that a lot of special things can happen when you do bring and convene and intersect different people in that way.
Can you give us an example of one of your happiest convening moments? Who did you bring together where you were like, wow, this is it?
I mean, I'll shout out Amplify Philly, which was brought up. Tracy and I and others in the crowd know what that is. But Amplify Philly really started as a convening at South by Southwest in Austin, and really tried to figure out the intersection of tech, business, art, music, and bring it to a different place in a different city, and showcase Philadelphia in that type of way. And I know a lot of us do that type of work to showcase the region in different ways. And there was something very special about what we have done in Austin, and that when, because we are a city of grit, and I would say we bootstrap our way down to Austin for the presence. Pretty much you can't go into the venue that we set up in Austin without talking to somebody from Philadelphia who's a partner or sponsor, because we're not getting a big check for $2 million and hiring staff who aren't connected to the mission of the work. So I think it's really cool and interesting when we can talk about life sciences and research advances and business and innovation and things happening in the entrepreneurial community in Philly, but then literally at night, like, take our ties off and have a dance party with DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Also representing Philly.
Exactly.
Now, you have said previously in a blog post that we have to shift, or there has been a shift from thinking, who is in the room, who is here for this conversation, to who is missing from this conversation, who is not here. What's your thinking on this, and how can we all be more intentional in terms of asking that question? Who is missing? Who are we not talking to?
Right. I think, the thing in community engagement, in my opinion, is that we're creating these things to sometimes, accidentally sometimes just check boxes off. And we say we did the community meeting and whoever showed up, and we're not asking enough, even pre-pandemic, who's missing and how do we get to the people that we need to really create space and opportunity and pathways for us to do community engagement more intentionally. And I think that the pandemic, one really big glaring thing to me is that we went sort of back to basics. We got connected back to humanity, and we saw each other's kids and dogs and cats crawling on one another. And whoever mentioned they got back into beekeeping, we all have those things, right? So I think at the end of the day, it always was there to really think about who is missing, who's not here. And I think we get caught up, myself included, in the everyday busyness of work and business, and we live in a capitalist place, so we're just churning. And I think, at the end of the day, community engagement has nothing to do with business. It has to do with humans and people. So I think that if anything, that the good and the very bad that this pandemic has brought, I hope that the big fat reminder is that we're all human at the end of the day.
And I think if the engagement is done in a perfunctory way, and you're not treating people as humans, you're treating them as a box you just checked.
Right.
People notice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're plugged into a national network, into an international network. What do you see in other places that you envy, and what makes you proud to be a Philadelphian?
Sure. I mean, I will admit, I'm born and raised in Philly. Not that I'm like, now I'm going to talk crap. I'm not. But I do see that some things take a little slower here to happen, right? And others not so much. But I do think that, that I see that there's different paces at different cities and different, places, depending on the circumstances and stakeholders. But I'm super, super proud of Philly because we are a place that is on the map and has a lot of cred. And, it is easy to connect with people here. And like Tracy had mentioned, you walk into a place and you figure out how to navigate, and Philly's Philly. It has that feeling of like, hey, yeah, come over here, and like, I'm just going to introduce you to everybody I know, and I do think that's really special about this city and this region.
Anything you see in other places that you were like, I wish we had that? She's a true Philadelphian.
Yeah.
She's like, nah.
No, we have everything here. What are you talking about?
Very good. So talk a bit about, how have you thought about your work in this past year and a half? What do you want to double down on? How have you refocused your mission? What's most important as we move ahead?
I mean, I think so. Our company at Witty Gritty is really in the business of engagements, experiences. Really, what that boils down to is a lot of event work, marketing, storytelling, content creation, and I do think that we have more tools in our toolbox now. I mean, I know we're still in the pandemic, so we're gently tiptoeing, being here together, still with a live stream audience. But I do think that there's no going back to normal. And I think that I'm excited about that future, that we can be able to create more pathways, think more creatively about getting more people connected in, and making things more accessible.
Were there things about connecting that you learned being forced into a whole new way of connecting and bringing people together? Were there any lessons in that?
You can figure out how to do karaoke online if you need to.
But it doesn't sound so good.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I do think that the one thing I do notice is that how much sort of what are the reasons that people can't make it to something or show up to something, and how technology can really help remedy that. If I have my kid at home, or I broke my ankle, or I'm elderly and I can't get out as much, all the laundry list of reasons why you might not be able to get to something, but you'd really like to participate in it. I think that technology, and we've seen that, can really help connect that more. So I do think that we became very, very quickly like make pretend TV producers in the last year and a half with all the virtual stuff. But I do think that it's only going to make us better and be able to make more 360 sort of accessible experiences for people.
Yeah. Final question. What is your call to action for the audience?
I would say, I would think, a lot of us have a lot of social capital. So I think my call to action is just think about how you can share that social capital with entrepreneurs that Della mentioned that work with and in the Enterprise Center and other people that you can think about, even in small ways. Buying a ticket to something like this, can I buy an extra ticket and bring somebody who's doing some really excellent work but just wouldn't know or have the opportunity to get here, right? So just share social capital as much as you can, and make space for people. Step aside when you can to give somebody else the space.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to hand things over to Tracy, but I want to thank all of you for allowing me into your space this evening, and congratulations again to our wonderful honorees and for the inspiration you bring to all of us and the words of wisdom you shared and the lessons you've learned during this pandemic. It was really wonderful to hear that. So thank you, and thank you, Tracy.
Wow, that was incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much, Maiken, and congratulations again to tonight's honorees. I'm Tracy Brella, Senior Vice President of Strategy and Partnerships at the Science Center, and I have the enviable task of being between you and the continued celebration out there, enjoying the delicacies of catering by design. Everyone knows it takes a village, and tonight would not have happened without the incredible leadership of Emily Sullivan and Lynette Moore. And behind the scenes of Kristen, Sharon, Megan, Angela, Leslie, Angela, Jake, Nick, and our many, many volunteers from the Science Center who were here to help facilitate the evening. Before we wrap up, I wanted to give one more thank you to our incredible supporters who would not, without them, tonight's festivities would not have happened. So presenting sponsors, CSL Behring, our award sponsors, CBRE, New Spring, Wexford, Ventas, PFM and Tri-State Capital, as well as our media sponsor, WHYY, along with the many other organizations that supported at the platinum, gold, or silver levels. We've had an incredible show of support this year. And thanks to all of you, we've raised 50% more than we ever have for this event, which is a record high for the Nucleus event. So again, thank you very much. The incredible support and the opportunity to see you all in person, which was clearly a theme tonight. I'm sure you all know how many conversations behind the scenes happened to make the decision about whether it was right to bring people back together in person. We recognized the value of convening, and we felt that it was incredibly important that we had this opportunity to spend this together and to celebrate our honorees in person. It makes me incredibly hopeful and optimistic to see your support of not only the Science Center, but really our ecosystem, to think about how we can ultimately move forward. 100% of tonight's funds will go to support the programs of the Science Center, which last year alone, and we know last year was a really interesting year, supported 96 startups, 45% of which had minority founded entrepreneurs. We had 15,000 folks who attended events, 400 different sessions, and we had an opportunity to engage over 250 middle and high school students in immersive STEM education. If you want a collector's item, this is the 2020 Impact Report. I'm sure at some time, 10 years from now, we're all going to look back at those 2020s and either want to throw them away or actually think about the pivots and the lessons that we learned. So please feel free to take the copy that's at your chair and think about the opportunities where you will have an opportunity to help support us. We recognize that this would not happen, and our future growth and mission without all of you. We want to advance healthcare innovation, uplift communities, and improve lives. We're really excited that on October 27th and 28th, back in this room, we are going to be launching our Angel Capital Fund in partner with the ACA's Fall Forum, Growing the World of Angel Investing. The night doesn't end here. I know you all heard those amazing calls to action. We need to tell one person to get them vaccinated. We need to continue to think about how we elevate and alleviate structural inequities. We need to support women. And first of all, you're an incredibly influential audience. How are we sharing our social capital to move forward? So please join us outside the conference room for more food and drinks, and continue celebrating Max, Stella, Tracy, and Michelle. Thank you and enjoy.